Top 10 movies of all time. Yeah, I said all time, but it's my opinion, so you can disagree all you want. Let's go. Number 10, The Boondock Saints, directed by Troy Duffy. It's not filmed in, but uh, released in 1999. Some of the actors are Willem Dafoe, Sean Patrick Flanery, and Norman Reedus. Most of you will probably know Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead TV show. On IMDb, this movie has a 7.8 rating, which is out of 10, of course. And I don't think it's the best rating for the movie. I think it's a better movie than a 7.8, but I don't think it deserves a 9, like some of these movies on this list do. But yeah, this movie is about two twins, which are the two people you see there on the screen, that are trying to rid Boston of this bad group of guys, and the whole time they're going around killing these guys, they're being tailed by the FBI. It's a very suspenseful movie, and it's a very action-packed movie. Why it's on this list: there's lots of action, like I said before. There's lots of witty banter that goes on in between the two twins. It's actually a pretty funny movie at times, and also the cast has some great actors in it that definitely deserve more than they got from this movie. Coming in at number 9 is a movie that many of you probably have never seen, Session 9. Came out in 2001. It was directed by Brad Anderson. Main actor in it is actually David Caruso. Also, Stephen Grevenden and Peter Mullan are in it. And you may know David Caruso from CSI Miami. He was the main guy on there. And this was, I believe, before CSI Miami started. It's like a psychological thriller, kind of scary movie. And on IMDb, it has a 6.5. I definitely think it deserves more like a 7.8, like the Boondock Saints had, because of some of the aspects of the movie. I mean, the story's not the greatest, and some things could have been done a little better, but all in all, it was a great movie. And it was about a team of men who go into an abandoned mental hospital to clean up some asbestos. But along the way of cleaning up this asbestos, it was going to take them about a week. They figure out the horrors that happened inside this abandoned mental hospital. And the picture you see there on the left is actually the mental hospital that they filmed it in. And it was up in Massachusetts, I believe. And I want to say 2000, a few years after it was filmed, I know, it was torn down, and now there's an apartment complex there. I think it would have been much better just to leave the mental hospital there, because it's a very beautiful, beautiful place. But you know, with the economy going to crap and everything, I guess it's okay. Why I put it on this list: it's a very beautifully shot movie. It is just so visually pleasing how they shoot this movie. It's also very suspenseful, and there is very, very good acting in this movie, surprisingly, for a horror movie. Usually horror movies aren't known for their acting, they're known for their jump scares and things like that, but this movie never really has any jump scares. I mean, there are a few points where you could say it's a jump scare, but really, it's just the way they shoot it. You kind of like jump, because there was so much suspense, and it was just broken. Next, coming in at number 8 is The Usual Suspects by Bryan Singer. It was filmed and distributed in 1995. Some of the actors in it are Stephen Baldwin, Kevin Spacey, and Gabriel Byrne. Barney. I don't know how to say that, but on IMDb they gave it a 8.7, which I think it might actually be a little too high for this movie. I mean, it's a great movie, yes, but I don't know. I don't know. It really is a great movie, though. It's about this movie is about a boat that was destroyed, and the police bring in these 5 usual suspects and start to question them. And slowly they figure out what actually happened on this boat. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm just going to say they find out a little bit too late. Yeah. It's a really great movie, a lot of suspense. It's a twist ending, actually. And of all the people that I've talked to, I was the only person that actually saw the twist ending coming. Not many people saw it. Why it's on this list, there's some great acting, always by Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey's one of my favorite actors. It's a very interesting story, actually. It's a story that I've never seen before. It's also a very, very great cast in this wonderful movie, The Usual Suspects. Next, at number 7, is Reservoir Dogs. In 1992, Quentin Tarantino directed this movie. Some of the cast members are Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Chris Penn, Steve Buscemi. There are lots of other characters in this movie that are very well-known actors, actually. This is one of those movies that kind of made it on the list that I really like, but I didn't really know where to put it, because I don't know, there are so many great movies out there. It's kind of hard to boil it down to 10, and then once you get it down to those 10, it's hard to put them in order. But on IMDb, they give it an 8.4, which I think is a pretty reasonable rating for this movie. It's all about a seemingly easy jewelry heist that these men are going to go on, and it goes horribly wrong. And throughout the movie, the criminals, I mean, not the people, the criminals start to suspect each other as police informants, and slowly they all die off. As you see in the picture, each of the actors has a different color above their head. Like Steve Buscemi there, the one second to the left, he has the pink, and each of them, they weren't allowed to give their own names, so they got colors, and Steve Buscemi got Mr. Pink. Then you've got like Mr. White, Mr. Orange, Mr. Yellow. It's a very, very interesting movie. Interesting premise, too. It's on this list because, one, it's directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's one of my favorite directors, if not my favorite director. And the cast and story are actually really, really good. It's one of my it's a great cast, actually. There's so many. It's a star-studded cast. Coming in at number 6, we have Fight Club. Directed by David Fincher. In 1999 it came out. Some characters were Edward Norton, Brad Pitt, and Helena Carter. There on the right you can see Brad Pitt and Edward Norton. On IMDb they give it an 8.8, which I think is a very reasonable rating for this movie. It's a very, very good movie. And of course it's on this list, so it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I just think it's a great, great movie. It's about an insomniatic office worker that makes a fight club and learns a thing or two about himself along the way. This movie also has a twist ending like The Usual Suspects did. And that quote you see on the left, "We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like," that really shows what the movie has to offer. It has to offer a different outlook on life and what it's like for some people to go through life, and it really makes you appreciate yourself and what's happening. in your life, because you could be Edward Norton. That's all I'm gonna say. Why it's on this list? It's a great story, and it's actually based on a book by Chuck P. I'm not gonna try and say his last name because it's too many letters strewn together in a random order, and it's very, very well acted. It's one of the best acted movies on this list, actually. I mean, obviously, they're all very well acted. It's not like any of them are comedies, because not many comedies are great movies. They're funny for a while, but kind of get tired of them. But, yeah, this is just all in all a great movie. Great ending, too. And it follows the book pretty well. I read the book first and then watched the movie. And, I mean, I was expecting it the whole time, but it pretty much followed the book. It was one of the closest book-to-movie books that I've ever seen. Next, number 5 is Seven. Came out in 1995, also directed by David Fincher. He's a great director that has really launched his directing career with these two movies. And as you see, it's got Brad Pitt again. It's also got Morgan Freeman and Kevin Spacey. Some great actors in this movie. On IMDb, it gets a 8.7, which I think is a very deserving number for this movie. And this movie's about two detectives who hunt for a killer, Kevin Spacey, who is using the 7 deadly sins as his motive. And you see there on the movie cover, it has the 7 deadly sins: gluttony, greed, sloth, envy, wrath, pride, and lust. And yeah, it's a really great movie, and again, with Fincher, it's another twist ending. It's very suspenseful, very, very well shot, very good movie. And why it's on this list? There's great acting and a great cast. It's very well shot. Pretty much any movie Morgan Freeman's in is pretty dang good. But all in all, this is just a really, really good movie. Like every other movie on this list, I definitely recommend to watch them. Okay, coming in at number 4, another movie many of you may not have seen is Memento. It was directed by Christopher Nolan, came out in 2000, has Guy Pearce, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Joe Pantoliano. Probably said that wrong. It's close enough. On IMDb, it's an 8.5. It's about a man who's suffering from short-term memory loss who uses notes and tattoos to hunt down the man who he thinks killed his wife. That's Guy Pearce there, and you see his tattoos, and you probably can't read any of them, but if you watch the movie, all of his tattoos are just about important facts in his life, and he takes pictures and writes things on the backs of the pictures to remember things, because his memory is so horrible that he wakes up one morning and can't remember what day it is, can't remember what he did the day before, so he has to look at the pictures that he took to figure it out. And the movie moves in a very weird way. It almost moves backwards, but at the same time it doesn't move backwards. It's a very confusing story, but it's a very good story. And, yeah. Why it's on this list. Like I said, it's a very confusing story, but once you finish a movie, you just kind of sit there for 10 to 15 minutes just trying to put it all together in your head. Like, what the heck did I just watch, and what happened during this movie? It's wonderfully acted. And it also makes you want to watch it again, just so you can put the details together a little better and kind of follow the story a little more. Because, like I said, it's confusing, but once you've watched it 2 or 3 times, you kind of start to see the little tiny details that you didn't see the first time, and it makes more and more sense every time you watch it. Okay, coming in number 3 is True Romance. Possibly one of my favorite movies of all time. Well, obviously, but maybe one of my top 2, but these top 3 movies that I have here are just so great. I kind of picked them at random, really. It's directed by Tony Scott. Came out in 1993. It's got a huge cast of great actors. Got Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, Christopher Walken. Pretty much everyone is shown there that I just said, other than Brad Pitt and Christopher. Oh no, Christopher Walken's up there, yeah. On IMDb, it's a 7.9, which is definitely not good enough. This deserves at least an 8.7, 8.8, just because of the acting. This movie's about Clarence, who's Christian Slater, who marries a hooker, who is Patricia Arquette. Christian Slater steals cocaine from her pimp, who's Gary Oldman, and he tries to sell the cocaine in Hollywood while being followed by the people who own the cocaine, who are trying to come and kill him. It's a very suspenseful story, very, very well-written story. There's some great gunfighting scenes, and the end of the movie has possibly the greatest gunfight of all time in a movie. Great soundtrack as well. I actually listened to one of the songs from this movie for a month or two after I first watched it 2 or 3 years ago. I just couldn't stop listening to it. And since then, I've rewatched a movie 2 or 3 times. It's just such a great movie. And it really shows off the acting that some of these characters can do. Why is it on this list, and so high on this list? It's obviously a star-studded cast, it's a great story, and it's actually very realistic acting done in the story. These actors had to have gone out and followed some people around to really figure out how to act their character in this movie. Coming in number 2, I think right now, at this very moment, is my favorite movie, is A Clockwork Orange. Directed by Stanley Kubrick in 1971. It was based on a book, A Clockwork Orange, of course. Same name. Some of the actors are Malcolm McDowell, Patrick McGee, and Michael Bates. On IMDb, they gave it an 8.4, which is definitely not enough. It deserves at least a 9, because in its time, it was such a controversial movie that it deserves much more. Many of you may not have heard of this movie because it's so old, because so many people don't really pay attention to the older movies anymore. It's about the future Britain, where a delinquent Alex DeLarge, which is McDowell, who's shown there on the left picture in the middle, one who's got like the eyeshadow around his eye, or fake eyelashes, I mean, not eyeshadow. He's jailed for accidentally killing a woman, and he volunteers for an experimental therapy developed by the government to try and solve the crime problem in Britain. But not all goes well during this therapy that they go through. And there on the cover of the movie, it says, being the adventures of a young man whose principal interests are rape, ultraviolence, and Beethoven. The beginning of the movie is very very disturbing for its time, for the movie's time, really. Alex DeLarge, shown in the middle, the 2 friends on the right and left of him, and one other friend just go around with shillelaghs, which are wooden whacking sticks, and beat people with them. And then he accidentally kills someone, and goes to jail for it. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie. Very well shot. It's actually very good quality for a 1971 movie. Like some of the horror movies that you watch from that time are nowhere near what this movie is in its rewatchability even. But why it's on this list? It's a great story, great action, not action, great acting, and it's a very emotionally involving movie. You really get connected to Alex when he's in jail. And you really, well, at least I did. I really felt for him, and I really saw that what he was doing really was the only thing he knew how to do. I mean, he was only 18 years old, and his parents were trying to get him to get out there in the world, pretty much. But all he knew how to do was go around and hurting people. Number one, which is probably the most expected movie on this list, considering what else I've said. If you guys can't guess what it is, you're crazy. And if you say that it is, what's that movie? Shawshank Redemption, you're stupid. Because that movie, it's good, but it's not as good as everyone makes it up to be. Number one movie of all time is Pulp Fiction. Directed by Quentin Tarantino, came out in 1994. It's got another star-studded cast with Tim Roth, John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Ving Rhames, Uma Thurman. Of course, Quentin Tarantino, because he always stars in his own movies. IMDb gives it a 9.0, which is definitely deserving for this movie. I think it deserves a little more, maybe a 9.1, 9.2, but 9.0 is good. It's I think number 4 for their best movies of all time, for the rating wise. If you've never seen this movie, which I highly doubt you haven't, it's pretty much the lives of two hitmen, a boxer, a gangster's wife, and a pair of robbers whose lives interlude in 4 tales of violence and redemption. It's a great movie, great acting, and very, very well meshed together stories. First time I watched it, I was almost confused at what was happening, but at the same time I knew exactly what was happening. Because the movie starts out, and you see 2 people, and you're like, okay, I guess this movie's going to be about these 2, and then it cuts to 2 other people, and you're like, okay, this is kind of weird, I guess this was probably before that happened. And then it cuts to a couple more people, and it just keeps throwing in characters, and you don't know what's happening, but at the same time, you know exactly what's happening. If you look there on the movie poster, you can actually see the whole star-studded cast with some of the people that I didn't mention, like Christopher Walken. He's in there. I don't even remember where he was in the movie. There's so many characters added in. Why it's on this list? Well, obviously, it's the greatest story of all time. It's a star-studded cast, and Quentin Tarantino again, obviously. So, thanks for watching, and if you have any movies you felt should have been in this list, leave them in the comments below. Have a nice day, and don't forget, if you like this list and want to see more, because there will be more coming out in the future, don't forget to subscribe. See ya.